how much of what I'm doing is based off of an assumption, right? And it's okay, do it that way a few times, great. See what it's like, but then change it. Don't do it that way for the entire class. Hey guys, this is Nick, owner and chief instructor of On Point Krav Maga in Waltham, Massachusetts. We just had a great class over Zoom and got in a little conversation afterwards that I wanted to share with you guys. We were talking about good and bad training habits and sort of things that we can do to help make us more effective, not only training by ourselves, but with partners and whether we're at home or in class. One of the big things that we ended up talking about was the dangers of practicing the same technique, the same way, at the same speed, and always getting the same response from my partner, okay? It's good to learn things in a vacuum in the beginning. For example, if I want to learn how to throw a good number 2 punch, I'm going to stand in front of the bag, I'm going to make sure everything looks good, and I'm just going to work on throwing that number 2 punch. Awesome. Once I learn how to throw that number 2 punch effectively in that condition, I need to change the conditions under which I'm throwing the punch. I need to start using it in combinations where I'm throwing other punches now too. I need to use it at a time when I might not know I have to use it, or in a sequence I didn't know I would have to use it. That's the important thing, is knowing when to access my tools as much as knowing how to use the tool itself. An analogy that we use is wearing an actual tool belt, right? So if I have a tool belt on, okay, I can take my hammer out. I know how to hammer a nail. I know how to screw a screw into the wall. I know how to bend wire with pliers. I can do these things. I know how to use each individual tool in my belt because I've practiced with it by itself in a vacuum. That doesn't mean that I know how to go out and build a house, or fix my car if it breaks down, or fix my fridge if it makes a funny noise, right? Those are kind of different skill sets. That means I also need to be able to recognize the job that needs to be done, know the process of how to get that job done, and then I need to know what tools to use to get that job done. So the danger is, for us, doing drills based off of assumptions. And what that means is, I practice a sequence, I practice self-defense, and I always get the same reaction from my partner, right? I shadow throwing a punch and they always step back a certain distance, or they put a choke on and I shadow the defense and I always get the same reaction from them. The problem with that is, it's not training me to use my tools under the circumstances under which they all need to be used, right? I'm not training to use them, to use my judgment to say, oh, that didn't go according to plan, now I need to do this, I need to do this. What that's going to end up doing to you at the end of the day is, if something does go off script, right? This is because you have written a script for this drill, right? I'm going to hit you like this, you're going to do this, I'm going to hit you like this, I'm going to react like this, and then you step in, and it just goes back and forth. Again, it's kind of like dancing, right? So the danger with this is, again, I'm not training myself to be adaptable, right? That's a key word here. What did Charles Darwin say about species that were most likely to survive? They're not the fastest, they're not the strongest, they're the most adaptable. So that is what we need to do, is be adaptable to ensure our own survival. When we start doing drills that get, kind of into deep water with our drills, we have to take a step back and see how much of what I'm doing is based off of an assumption, right? And it's okay, do it that way a few times, great, see what it's like, but then change it. Don't do it that way for the entire class, right? Don't practice doing something just at one range, or just going, from kicks into punch to punches into kicks. Go from short range to long range to short range. Don't be afraid to train those. Don't be afraid to mess up in training, A. B, really start to develop that sense of when and how do I use these tools, not just how, does this tool work? Like what is the physics of a punch? What is that, stuff you can nerd out on all day. When it comes down to it, for us, what's important is that we're able to use these things in a sequence that we might not know is a sequence yet, right? We have to be able to react appropriately to threats with the appropriate tools in good time. So if your training is not helping you do this, if you find yourself practicing the same thing the same way at the same speed all the time, or you're working with a partner and your partner's always giving you the same look or the same reaction for a drill that you're doing, ask them to change it up a little, see what happens, see if you can short circuit their brain a little bit. What I don't want to have happen to my students is have something go off script and have them shut down, right? That goes to another important part of training. How many times have we seen people, if you're in this in these kind of classes, have you seen somebody kind of go through a sequence or a punch combination, then they kind of forget something and then they just stop, right? Their shoulders drop, their hands start to drop, they look off, they're thinking about something. That is the death of you. Do not train to stop yourself when you are unsure. Train yourself to switch gears and adapt. And that's our thoughts for today. Thank you.